I'm Holly Bell. I was a finalist in the Great British Bake Off in 2011 and I'm a food blogger on recipesfromanormalmum.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make the perfect afternoon tea to say thanks to your mum on Mother's Day. We're going to make some mini chocolate orange scones, or scones, depending on where in the country you are, to start with. I've got some flour and I'm going to add in some baking powder here. Now it might seem like there's a lot of baking powder, but you do really need this. Mix those together and then you want really, really cold butter. I cut it into little cubes here just because it makes it easier to rub it in. Toss the butter in the flour first and then we want to rub it in so that it gets to a breadcrumb-like consistency. Keep going, give it a mix as you go so that you don't just rub in one area and miss out others. So I'm going to add in the milk chocolate chips and then the zest of one orange, and I've got some really cold milk. Give the milk a little stir with the orange zest in and then make a well and pour that in. Now take a blunt knife, not a sort of sharp cutting knife, and then stir the milk into the mixture. Now this dough is not an overly wet scone dough or scone dough. And I know that's unusual, but I promise you it's a really good recipe. When it starts to form lumps like this, get your hands in and pull it together. You're just pulling it together. All of those dry bits I'm squidging in, and it should clean the bowl, and that's when you know you've done it enough. You can see that bowl there, doesn't have any bits left in it. And then pat this down into a circle shape, and it's about 3 centimetres high. Straight into your cling film, wrap it up, and that goes into the fridge for half an hour. So the scone dough has been resting in the fridge for half an hour, which means that it's chilled down really nicely and it's puffed up a little bit because the baking powder has started to get to work. And I've got a little bit of flour here. You'll notice that I've lined a baking tray with baking parchment that's non-stick. This way you use less flour, so it means you don't get that horrible bottom to the scones that sort of goes a bit mealy. And then we're going to roll this. Now you can pat it out. If you don't have a rolling pin, you could use a wine bottle, don't forget. And they're great, especially if they're cold. So if you drink white wine and you keep it in the fridge, they're absolutely brilliant. So about 3 centimetres high. I'm going to say that's about 3 centimetres high. And then I'm going to make mini scones today. So I've dipped it in the flour. And the trick to making sure that your scone rises rather than sticks together is to cut straight down. Don't go twisting, because that makes all the edges sort of stick together. So straight down, and then almost push it out. And don't forget to keep dipping it, because the dipping is what stops it from sticking. Try to get them as close as you can together, because once you re-roll scone dough, it's never quite the same. Right, I've got a few there now, so I'm going to pop these onto the baking tray. You can see here we've got some dough left over. Now I'm not going to pretend these scones will be better than the first batch, but what you can do is stick it back together slightly. It's a bit like pay dough. And then re-roll, and then the same thing applies. Rather than crack open an egg and waste half of it, I'm going to use a tiny bit of milk on the top. These are going to go into a preheated oven, and they really don't need to be in for very long, but it does need to be a hot oven. Afternoon tea always needs to have really good sandwiches to go with it, as dainty as you can get them. I've got some lovely filling ideas, including roast beef with horseradish, prawn avocado with a slight chili mayonnaise sauce, and hummus, grated carrot and raisin. So my top tips for making really good finger sandwiches are to use bread from a good bakery, freshly baked, not pre-cut. To also use soft salted butter. Please don't use margarine, this is the time for decadence. No one wants to eat crusts when it's a real treat of an afternoon tea. And lastly, do not make them too far in advance, because they just look a bit sorry for themselves if you do. So here you have it, the perfect afternoon tea to say thanks to your mum for everything she does for you throughout the year. The scones have got a bit of clotted cream in the middle. You could add some orange curd as well, which would be lovely. If you do make any of it, I'd love to see the pictures. You can tweet me at HollyBellMummy and at Scoff Food, the same on Instagram, and I hope your mum has a lovely Mother's Day.